I thought I'd left the madness behind when I left my tech job in Phoenix. 15 years of fluorescent lights, pointless meetings, and the kind of stress that keeps you up at night had hollowed me out. All I ever wanted was some land, a house I could fix up, and silence real, soul-healing silence. So when I found a 19-acre spread in western Wyoming with an old farmhouse and a creek running through it, I didn't hesitate. I drained every cent of my savings, $735,000, and moved into what I thought would be my forever home. The town of Timber Falls was quiet, nestled between distant mountains and pine forest. My nearest neighbor lived half a mile away, and the only thing that ever made noise was the wind or the occasional elk. The property needed work, new roof, fencing, a barn that leaned more than stood, but I was ready. I started most mornings with a thermos of coffee, my hands wrapped around warm metal as I looked over the land I now owned. I hadn't felt this alive in years. About 3 weeks in, I was replacing rotted boards on the barn when a shiny white SUV crept up my driveway. Out stepped a woman in heels, far too fancy for gravel roads, with hair so perfectly styled it looked glued in place. "Hello," she called, waving a manicured hand. "You must be Mr. Easton." "I'm Madison Vexley, president of the Sagewood Bluffs HOA. I blinked. "Sagewood what?" She smiled like a shark, pulling out a folder thick with documents. "We manage the surrounding area, including your parcel. You're actually in our extended jurisdiction." My gut dropped. I checked the deed. My realtor confirmed no HOA. That was a huge reason I bought this place. "There's no HOA attached to this land," I said, firmly. I made sure. She chuckled lightly, like I'd made a silly mistake. "The original development plans show your property as an intended part of Phase 3. It was never completed, but we're reactivating those plans. It's just a matter of realigning the paperwork." Then she dropped the bomb, $600 monthly dues, restrictions on livestock, mandatory color palettes, and a deadline to remove the vintage satellite dish from the roof. I told her there must be some mistake, but the warmth drained from her face instantly. "Mr. Easton," she said coldly, "you'll want to cooperate. Unaffiliated properties often encounter setbacks." That night, I rechecked everything. My deed was clean. No HOA. I even emailed the county recorder's office just to be sure. Still, the next day, I got a letter taped to my front door. Notice of code violations, non-conforming structures. It listed my barn, my well pump housing, even the chicken coop I'd just started building. The signature at the bottom, Madison Vexley, acting under community oversight protocol. It didn't stop. Within a week, road crews blocked my access road citing drainage repairs. I got another notice about unapproved land use changes. My mailbox was mysteriously flattened overnight. At first, I thought it was just Madison, some overzealous HOA nut with too much time. But then the county utilities office left me a voicemail. My water rights were being reevaluated based on pending administrative review. That's when I knew this wasn't just one woman with a clipboard. This was a coordinated effort. I started keeping records, photos, recordings. I mounted trail cameras on trees near the creek and entrance gate. One night, I caught someone placing orange survey stakes in my field, clearly marked SB Dev. Phase 3. I pulled every single one out and saved them in a garbage bag. I tried to get help. The sheriff's office shrugged. The county clerk sounded nervous. Even my realtor wouldn't return my calls. It felt like I was screaming into a void. The tipping point came when I returned home one evening and found two men on my property with clipboards, pointing at the creek. I walked up calmly and asked who they were. One flashed a badge that didn't look official and said they were conducting a hydrological survey for future development. Future development of what I asked. Sagewood Resort and Spa. He replied casually, "Didn't they tell you? I didn't sleep much that night." The next morning, I drove 2 hours to Cheyenne to speak with an environmental attorney named Laura Clements. I showed her the photos, the notices, the footage. She took one look and said, "They're trying to force you off your land. But this is illegal, very illegal." With her help, we dug deeper. Turns out, Madison Vexley was one of the founding investors in a resort development group, planning a luxury compound on the ridge behind my property. My land specifically, the stream, was the last piece they needed. Water access, visual continuity, zoning contiguity without my parcel. They'd have to refile and reroute everything. Laura helped me file injunctions. We hit back with cease and desist letters, FOIA requests, and public record submissions. What we found made my blood boil. The original development plan from 1986 had been quietly modified using forged signatures. Someone had redrawn the boundary maps and filed them during a chaotic county rezoning year. Madison wasn't just overreaching. She was attempting a land grab. We went public. Laura held a press conference in front of the county courthouse. I shared my story. We handed over copies of altered documents to the press. A local investigative reporter picked it up and ran a front-page story, HOA power play, how one man stood between developers and a mountain paradise. The fallout was immediate. The sheriff launched an investigation. County officials scrambled to deny involvement. Madison Vexley went silent. Her next official move was to offer me $900,000 to sell and walk away. I said no. A week later, I woke up to find bulldozers parked on the edge of my land. They had started digging a diversion trench, trying to reroute my stream toward the development area. I called the State Water Commission and Laura. By the time law enforcement arrived, I was standing in front of the machines, phone in hand, reading aloud the state code about unlawful diversion of waterways. They halted the work. Laura filed an emergency order. The reporter ran another story. Within days, the county commission suspended the entire resort project pending environmental review. 2 county employees were fired. The forged rezoning documents became part of a criminal case, and Madison, she tried to lawyer up, but her own board turned on her when they realized what she'd done. Her investment partners withdrew. Her name was dragged through the mud in every local paper. Eventually, she resigned from the HOA, moved out of state, and according to rumor, filed for bankruptcy. As for me, I kept my land. I built the barn, the coop. I installed solar. People from town started stopping by, some to apologize, some to thank me for standing up. Laura and I stayed in touch eventually more than that. She spends weekends here now. The chickens love her. Sometimes I still walk down to the creek in the early mornings, coffee in hand, and watch the mist rise off the water. I think about everything that happened, the lies, the intimidation, the desperation to control what wasn't theirs. And I remember standing alone in that field, facing down bulldozers with nothing but truth and a phone camera. That's the day everything turned. I didn't just win a fight. I proved that when someone tries to steal what's yours, your land, your peace, your rights, you don't have to roll over. Sometimes, the quiet guy with a stubborn streak is exactly the kind of storm they never see coming.